He lived a short time, and he died. So then the next boy that was born got the name Dwayne, and that happened to be Sam. So I had to explain that to him one time, where, you know, because that was not explained at the time, but you could see how that came about. Well, he wants to know, we have a picture of our family in 1940, all except my mother, who was running the camera, of us kids with Dad sitting on a log up at Stonepile Spring, which was a hunting camp back in the teens and into the 20s. And when the Game Commission bought the property, they had to get rid of the camp, so then they built what they called the White Board Camp out along 322, which at that time was not 322, it was the Phillipsburg Highway. But anyway, the day I was born, I can't remember this, but the day I was born, I'm told Dad harvested a 9-point buck. But I do remember that 9-point antlers were behind the stair door all the time I was growing up till 1950, and the house got a major redone. And one day, not too long ago, my brother Ira said, "Whatever become of that 9-point antler?" I said, "Heck, I don't know," because when the house got done, I knew what happened after that, because I never remembered after that. But Dad was hunting up Laurel Run, and I was just telling them that it was what you would call a long shot, because the deer had ran out and ran down in front of the watchers up by what we know as the Kells place, and they all took a shot at it and went across the road and up over the other hill, and Dad saw it going up over the hill, and it went up and top and stopped. Well, okay, so he's going, you know, he's a driver, and he had a 32 Remington. Now we're talking a long shot, like 250 yards, I don't know, anyway, something like that. So he pulled up, gave Kentucky Wendy's, he shot, and the deer disappeared. So he went out and asked the watchers, well, they said there was a big one ran down through here, and they all take a shot out across the road, and everyone disappeared on the other hill. So Dad said, "I think I know where it is." So that was the day I was born, I'm told. So then it came time for me to come home. Now, mind, the road to Phillipsburg was no more than just a rocky trail boat in those days. And I had, my mother and I had made the trip together in the Model T. We did. I'm told, anyway. Anyway, so then when it came time for me to come home, Dad drove his Model T up top of the mountain where the White Board Camp was, because Granddad was up there in the camp and he had a new Model A. So I come home in style in the Model A Ford. I don't remember that either, but I'm told it. So then growing up was, I don't know whether it was interesting or whatever, but I remember when I was a little kid, things was pretty tough, and Dad sold his Model T for $12 at Collie Woodring, and then if we rode to town, we'd ride up with Mossy up to his place, and I was just a little kid, and I remember those potholes in that road seemed like it was 6 feet deep in the dark. So then Aunt Myrtle and Uncle Bernard got a new, 1935, they got a new Pontiac, and she gave Dad his Chevy. She never wore a gift horse in the mouth, and Dad never liked that Chevy, but it was better than nothing. So then in 1936, he bought a Model A for it. And that was, when I didn't start to tell about
your sister went
family.
How much did he pay for it?
My daddy paid $90 for it. You know how I know that?
No.
I'm not sure either.
because that's what you were told.
I think that was it. So, anyway, the family finally grew up, and I think it might have been a little bit of divine intervention that they all grew up and survived, considering the terrain and what we what we did up there. So anyway, we did all grow up, and then, well, I was going to tell you about one thing it's about 5, 6, number of years ago. It was right after New Year's, and I got a phone call. Our starts. And his vein was, well, he said, you know, there's 10 of us. Yeah, 10. I'm agreeing. We're all living. Yeah, we're all still living. Then he kept in his vein for quite a while. So then, at this point, Wanda and Darlene were emailing each other. And so I called Wanda and I said, would you email Darlene and tell her father that when his family starts to die off, he better hope doesn't start to top. Well, then Dale knew this story, and the sad part was that when Dale got sick, he was talking to me one day and he said, well, I know the story, and he said, you know, I'm not happy with it starting at the bottom either. That's the way it did work out. So even though Ira did almost kill himself, he's still hanging in there. I kind of hope to do the same when I don't want to kill myself like he did. Well, that's some of the highlights. You know, some of it was kind of interesting. I don't know, I think Dad, as soon as we were able to milk a cow, we milked a cow. As soon as we was able to drive a tractor, we drove a tractor. And that's the way it worked. So somehow, on those hills, we survived. That's kind of proof, living proof.